This is the best local sports show in Jacksonville. Action Sports Jax Primetime. Brought to you by Larry's Giant Subs.
Slide over, one gap. Go! Good eye.
Good eye. The focus for Sunday, shortened practice after 2 straight full pads days. Doug Peterson got the fellas in and out at the Miller Electric Center today. Not the greatest tempo, but after 2 gruelers in that hot sun, I think it was kind of understandable, right? You fans didn't miss a thing. The Jags closed today and tomorrow's practices, by the way, because of the weather, so no juice from the Jags faithful, but that's okay. Friday and Saturday were great. Hello, Hicken here. Action Sports Jax Primetime is on the air 6 days away from the Kansas City Chiefs, the defending Super Bowl champs, invading Everbank for preseason game number 1. You know, Andy Reid likes to use his starters somewhat. Doug Peterson says his guys are going to go, so man, we might get a whole first quarter full of interesting stuff Saturday night. Another step telling us football is back in Jax. Big show tonight, lots of Jags talk. We'll catch up with the center of attention. That's Mitch Morse. That's coming up, plus a peek at the Summer Olympics. Emotional day for 2 of sports greats. But as always, let's begin with the Jaguars. It was easy like Sunday morning today for the Jags at the Mech. Weather was great due to the overcast skies. The pads weren't on. The Jags got a shortened practice from their head coach. Shoot, what more could a player ask for? A busy week coming up, though, with Kansas City on Saturday night. That's right, it's our first of 20 game weeks. Nothing better for football fans.
You know, this part of camp, Coach always said that, you know, this part really makes a callus on your brain for when you get into week 15, week 16, week 17, and you get into those long times during the season where you really got to dig through and, you know, keep going.
All right, we got some notes from this Sunday at the Miller Electric Center. We start with Miller, Ventrell Miller, who returned to practice, but you see he's kind of in one of those red pennies, and that hand very much still wrapped up. Did have a couple roster moves. Gary Brightwell and Chris Myrick joined the 90-man roster, while Lorenzo Lingard waived, and Josh Peterson, son of Doug, waived injured list. And Sunday's practice, as mentioned, a little shorter than originally planned, a brief 2-hour session for the Jags. Reminder, because I saw some of you showing up today out there, the practice tomorrow also closed to the public. Let's bring in Action Sports Jax Stuart Weber. He has more on the Jags trying to fix one of their biggest deficiencies in 2023.
Perhaps no position had its depth tested more in 2023 than the offensive line. Does the team have that depth they need to compete at a high level in 2024? That is certainly one of the burning questions of this Jaguars training camp, and we've already seen some minor injuries. Cam Robinson with a shoulder, Anton Harrison missing practices with a concussion, and that begs the question, will the Jaguars be good to go when the season starts at that offensive line?
There's a lot of things you're not sure about until the regular season starts. You don't know who's going to be suiting up. You don't know who's going to be healthy for week 1 or whatnot, or there's so many unknowns, right? But it gives you the confidence when week 1 comes that you've banked reps, that you've seen most every look, that you've talked about it, that we're all 5 on the same page.
What we did in terms of developing our roster and improving the talent on the team overall. And a lot of these guys, I mean, the linemen especially, a lot of these guys have to be cross-trained. I mean, you have to be able to play multiple positions. So for a guy to play center and now take more reps at guard as we've gone in, I mean, that just makes him more valuable to the team. And these guys, really, they have done whatever we've asked if we can present the vision of helping the team.
The latest addition to that injury report from an offensive line standpoint is Ezra Cleveland, who's being counted on to be that starting left guard with a leg injury, the severity of which is still very much unknown. For Action Sports Jax, I'm Stuart Weber.
I appreciate it, Stuart. All right, let's talk about the offensive line for just a second. Right now, they're a bit beat up, but that's okay. But if there's one area where the Jags really can't afford to lose guys, I would say it's probably the offensive line. We're 1 injury away from having the exact same starting 5 that we had last year. And if you remember last year, it wasn't good enough, right? The stuff rate was bad, one of the historical worst in the history of the NFL. So they went out and got Mitch Morse. They're expecting more from guys who were a bit beat up. Ezra Cleveland, who didn't practice today, but was out on the field, so he looks okay. One of the wild cards in this, right? Because really, we count him as last year, but he hardly played at all for the Jags. They're counting on him to make a big contribution as well. And of course, Cam, and then Anton Harrison was the only guy not on the field today. The other guys were out there. They weren't working necessarily, but Anton Harrison is out He is under concussion protocol, so he was not out on the field today. All right, Jags quarterback Trevor Lawrence may have just had his best week of practice, right? I mean, it seems like it, and maybe ever. And when you're part of the top 10 big contracts club, everything you're going to do is going to be magnified. Example, hey, Dan, he should be great. Look at how much he's making. Or, hey, Dan, he threw a pick. Get Mac Jones ready. It just comes with the territory, right? And it happens in any city, Cincinnati, Green Bay, Miami, Detroit, L.A., Baltimore, Philly, Kansas City, any city who's paying top dollar for a quarterback. Well, maybe not Kansas City. That's because Patrick Mahomes has 3 Super Bowl rings, so they kind of let that slide a little bit. But these guys, they're all expected to do one thing and one thing only: win a Super Bowl. That's where you are now. That's why you get the money. That's what's expected. Well, here's all you need to know about Trevor Lawrence. He's been on fire the last few days. All those interceptions have disappeared, and he's starting to develop the rapport with his receivers. All good stuff from the passing game. But we will pass things on to Liv Tasley for more on number 16.
It was a big talker last season as Trevor Lawrence looks to improve on his ball security from 1 season ago. We've heard 16 say over and over again that he knows in order to win football games, he needs to protect the football. In 3 seasons, the 4th-year quarterback has tossed 39 interceptions and fumbled 33 times. Many of those times, it looked like Trevor took a leap of faith trying to make the historic play. Instead, it led to heartbreak, and head coach Doug Peterson is putting emphasis on when to take the risk and how to make sure there's more confidence behind the throw.
I challenge him and all the quarterbacks, because this is how I was challenged in camp. See what you can get away with now. See what type of throws you can make. Can I, make that tight window throw? If it gets knocked down, if it gets picked, okay, great, that's fine, good for the defense. But then it reinforces certain things, right, from a quarterback's perspective. But maintaining aggressiveness with the ball in your hand, again, trying to make those types of throws, not careless, not poor decisions, throwing late down the middle, none of that kind of stuff, but on time rhythm throws, and let's see what he can do.
Doug was also asked if he saw improvement in the second half of last season when it came to Trevor's ball security. He simply said yes and left it at that. Trevor, though, is hoping to have a big goose egg under those turnover stats when it comes to 2024. For now, at Jaguars training camp, I'm Olivia Tasley, Action Sports Jacks.
Yeah, thanks, Liv. The one thing about Trevor, the fumble's got to go. You're going to throw interceptions. He threw 14 of them last year. But if you do throw 14 interceptions, then you need to be up around the 28 to 32 touchdown pass club. Trevor only had 21 last year. So you can start to get the idea. It was not his best season. There are a lot of reasons why. We've been over them ad nauseum. The injuries were a big part. The poor offensive line play was a big part. So all that stuff goes out the window, though, when you get the big contract. And now the thing is, Trevor's expected to make everybody else better around him, and I think he's ready to do that as he goes into his 4th year of the National Football League. No more talk about Urban Meyer in the first year's a wash. No more talk about anything. It's all about winning now, and it starts with the Dolphins in week 1 of the regular season. Things not that important in the preseason, so we shall see going forward. Speaking of the preseason, let's show you the lineup. Just in case you were wondering, and we know you are, we're going to see you Saturday at the Bank. The Kansas City Chiefs, that'll be on CBS 47. That's this Saturday, August 10th, just 6 days away. Cannot wait for that. That is fun. That is a good start. That is something we look forward to. Then the Bucs come to town. They'll have a couple joint practices, and then they'll have a game, although Doug Peterson probably won't play the starters because they'll get in most of their work in the practices, so you probably won't see them as much. But you will see them in the 3rd game because that's August 23rd. Think about the layoff that the Jaguars would have if they didn't play on August 23rd. They don't start until, the first week of September. So you're talking about 14, 15, 16 days before the first NFL regular season game. And it's a big one down in Miami against a very good Dolphin team that can throw it all over the yard. We're going to get a real good look at Ryan Nielsen and that defense. So we'll see what happens. But that's their 1 road game. 2 home games to start the year, though, Kansas City and Tampa in the preseason. Should be fun. Looking forward to being out at the Bank. Could the Jags' 2nd-round pick be the biggest Jags Smith since Jimmy? Literally, he is. We'll catch up with Maason Smith when Action Sports Jacks Primetime continues. And we also shout out and say hey to Patrick Murtaugh. There he is. Successful surgery today on that broken ankle. Ooh, it was gruesome. Suffered in practice on Friday. Murtaugh, though, out on social media saying, let the rehab begin again. Everything's going to be okay, and he has a great team around him, hoping for a quick recovery for the Aussie.
Hey, this is Brian Dawkins, former Reigns Vikings, Ichiban #1, and you're watching Action Sports Jax. When I say it means something to me, gentlemen, it means something to me.
High school football is back and it's bigger than ever. Welcome to the Friday Night Zone Blitz.
It is bigger than a game.
Watch the biggest games each week live as the action unfolds with instant reaction and analysis from our Hall of Famer, Kevin Sullivan. It starts with live look-ins at the top matchups, including our Jaguars Prep Whataburger Game of the Week, and that is just the beginning of 4 straight hours of coverage. From 8 to 10:30, the Friday Night Zone Blitz is streaming on our Action News Jax app and online. At 10:30, the Friday Night Blitz you know and love. A half hour of highlights from around the area. 11 o'clock, we shine the spotlight on the bands that pump up the crowd. 11:15, it's time to blitz through the highlights online and on air. Then 11:35, back to the stream to break down the night's results with a reaction from local coaches. 4 straight hours of high school football on the Friday Night Zone Blitz. Only on Action Sports Jax 24/7.
This is the best local sports show in Jacksonville. Action Sports Jax Primetime. Brought to you by Larry's Giant Subs.
Mason's got such a bright future in this league. You know, he's got the physical tools, of course. But you can see that he's got these spurts of just not only athletic power, but, you know, he's really working some moves.
Oh, I like that. Big Mitch Morse likes what he sees from the Jags' second-round pick, Maason Smith. We're back on Action Sports Jax Prime Time. Got a quick rookie recap for you. This is the one thing I want to point out. This is great that he's our kicker. You know, late pick, Cam Little. Everybody's excited about him, okay? But he can't be the most valuable rookie this year, okay? That can't happen. The most valuable rookie's got to be these guys. Got to be these LSU guys, right? We need Brian Thomas, right? We need him. We need Maason Smith. We need these guys. Jarian Jones had another interception in practice today. Looks like he's going to be able to contribute, right? So all these guys, DeAndre Prince getting some good love, the corner from Ole Miss. We haven't seen much of Robinson, the kick returner, yet, but these are the guys, you know, these guys. And then you start to add in the second-year guys, the rookies from last year. Brenton Strange, Tank Bigsby, are you watching? Are you listening? You guys got to be a lot better this year if this team is going to go places that people may not necessarily think that they're going to go. So a lot of challenges for the first and second year players. The 2 last draft classes got to play well. And unfortunately for Brian Thomas Jr., or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, he's thrust into a starting role. He's going to be compared to Calvin Ridley. He's going to have to make a lot of plays, and he's going to have to make them early on, right? We're going to need a lot from him because we don't have a lot of depth at the receiver position. Stuart Weber now with more on one of the most important picks. That's the second-round defensive tackle, Maason Smith from LSU.
Your first training camp, your first taste of it, to kind of go through these dog days, as it were. I know Coach says there are no dog days; they're all good days out there. But for the players, there's kind of some dog days out there.
You know, really just putting my best foot forward each and every day and continuing to get better. You know, I think that's what separates somebody at this level. You know, being able to do the things the right way when they're tired and fatigued. So, you know, just really being able to hone in on that. You know, for our individual, you know, coach get us pretty tired, and then coming into the team period, you already tired, so you really got to hone in on your habits and your technique and everything of that sort. So, you know, just having that good technique each and every time, you know, just to build up those good habits going into the game day will be perfect.
Yeah, you can definitely see Coach Nielsen putting you guys through the ringer there, and he is that hands-on coach, that coach that's going to really work you guys in the individual. How much do you like that from a coach?
You know, to much whom given, you know, much is expected. So I've already had a coach similar to Coach Nielsen, Coach Ed Armstrong, real hands-on, real that type of guy. And, you know, Coach Nielsen was his defensive line coach when he was the head coach at Ole Miss. So, you know, it's a similar feel. And, you know, he's really hard on me, but, you know, I know that he sees something in me and something that I can do. And, you know, like I said, you know, he knows I can handle it. So, you know, just being able to take the hard coaching, the constructive criticism and getting better every day is my main focus, man. So anything other than that, I can't really even take my mind off it. You know, I can't worry about it. I'm just here to get better and, you know, make a name for myself.
The nice thing is Coach Nielsen probably easier to understand, right?
Yeah, he definitely.
Than Orgeron was.
Yeah, he definitely is. You know, but like I said, similar coaching styles. You know, very hands-on, very perfectionist, and that's what I need in my life. So you know, I can't complain. That's what I asked for.
One more coaching question for you. Coach House comes with you guys. He kind of got here first, obviously, but how has that dynamic been to have this guy that was coaching you last year at the college level to now be on the staff? I know he's not your position coach, but to have him be part of it.
You know, it's great to see him every single day. You know, like you said, him being my defensive coordinator the past 2 years at LSU. And, you know, us making this transition together, it's been a great experience. I actually seen his wife and his kids the other day, you know, and I've ate at their house the last 2 years. I've, you know, been over there for such things, you know, occasions. So it's always good just to see him each and every day. And, you know, like I said, it really helped me with the transition over here, you know, just to have somebody I know that I could truly trust. Like, you know, I could trust a lot of guys here, but, you know, for sure, we don't have to, you know, cross that boundary again. I already know it's good with him. I already know, you know, I could trust him. And if I needed to ask somebody a hard question, I could definitely go to him and get the advice I need.
For you, you know, you're a younger guy, you're fresher, and I feel like each of these practices is kind of that much more important for you.
It is, definitely. I think for me, it's just repetition, time on task. So really just hone in, like I said, the practices to me are like games. So, and if you do good at the practice, if you hone in that stuff on the practice, the game will come easy. So it's really just taking the teaching that my coaches have been teaching me, listening to the older vets in the room, and just, you know, like I said, putting my best foot forward, my best foot forward, and continuing to grow and continue to polish my game. You know, I feel like when I maximize potential, I could be a real great player. So just being able to do that and keeping my head down and working is all I need to do.
You talk about listening to those veterans. Who have you kind of attached to the most out of that group of guys who've been around here for a few years that you've really leaned on the most for conversations, advice?
Definitely Roy and Eric, you know, just two bigger body defensive linemen, my similar body style. So, you know, in both of them, Eric been in the league 10 years, Roy 9. So, you know, just being able to, if they've been in the league that long, you know, they're doing something correct. So just listening to them about the little things, details, and, you know, just asking them the questions that they had coming in and what they thought they needed to work on coming in and everything of that sort. And, you know, just, like I said, put my best foot forward and continue to grow.
Got much more Jags talk every weekday on the Brett and Austin Show. Check it out tomorrow at 10 a.m. and every day through the week. Gators training camp continuing down in Gainesville. Remember, they got a game coming up in August. They host Miami 3 weeks from Saturday, and it counts. It's one of the most important openers of quite some time for the Florida football program. You know the difficulty of the schedule by now, but we got a reminder. Billy, what are you pointing at over there? Huh? There's good reason this schedule has been a talker. It is extremely difficult. Out of conference with Miami at the end of the year with Florida State. But it's the ones in the SEC that really wow you. You know, you got Texas A&M. You got them at home, though. You got Mississippi State away. You've got UCF, who always loves to beat Big Brother, right? You've got Tennessee, and you got to go up to Knoxville. You got Kentucky, who you haven't beaten in 3 or 4 years. So even though the first 7 are really tough, Florida better make hay in the first 7 because then it gets next to impossible, right? Then you got Georgia, who you last beat in 2020. Dogs 42-2 over the last 3 years. 42-2. Haven't lost a regular season game since losing to Florida in COVID year. All right, then you go to Texas, who everybody has in the Final Four in the playoff. Then you've got LSU at home, Ole Miss. A lot of people's pick to make the SEC championship game, and always tough Florida State. So that's why everybody's been talking about the schedule. We gave you the reminder. Building chemistry is an important part of what the Gators are about to face. At least it is to head coach Billy Napier. The team that stays together hopefully wins together.
New rules for training camp this year, right? So no phones in the training table, no phones in the recovery area. And that's been pretty cool to see these guys interact with each other. So being intentional, put that phone down and have an opportunity to spend some meaningful time together and connect, to listen to each other.
Oh, I love how he speaks. I just don't know if it's all going to work out. We'll see. Let's sort out the receivers behind Trey Wilson. That's one thing that this camp will have to do. Who's going to step up? Who's going to make catches from Graham Mertz and Mr. Lagway at quarterback, right? They have 2 outstanding quarterbacks. One, a 6th-year guy. It's Graham Mertz's football team, but you're going to see some of Lagway as well. We talked about the huge opener. I was down in Gainesville recently. I was visiting with Steve Spurrier, Chris Doering, Shane Matthews. And those guys were talking, they never really played a game of this magnitude in their opener. This is one where if you don't have their attention during August, well, you could get in big trouble. It's a big game for both programs who have kind of had similar paths the last couple of years. And then you get this bad break with their running back, Montrell Johnson, who's their starting running back, their bell cow. He is week to week now after a knee surgery cleanup. We'll have to see how that all plays out. FSU goes a week earlier than the Gators. And by the way, they are coming to UNF this week for a couple days of chemistry building of their own. Here's Mike Norvell on the team's first scrimmage.
You know, the communication aspect, that's one of the things you always want to see in that first scrimmage of, when coaches aren't out there, being able to give the reminders, and those guys got to go execute, just exactly where they are. And, there was some good and, some young guys that, rose up, but then, there are obviously a lot of things that we're going to have to get better at in just, overall understanding, and just for guys to prove that they're ready to be able to help us, here early in their careers.
Real interesting to watch Florida State, especially week one. That's where they're headed, by the way. I think their defense has a chance to be outstanding. I think they got a lot of depth, a lot of guys. I think they're going to start to, they've been hitting the transfer portal, but their recruiting's been better, so I think they're going to be fine. FSU does have that lengthy road trip week one, though. They're going to Dublin, Ireland, where they'll take on ACC foe Georgia Tech. I know a lot of you Seminole fans will be making the trip. That should be a lot of fun. Appreciate you hanging out with us on Action Sports Jax Prime Time. Have a great night, everybody.
I'm Brian Thomas Jr., wide receiver for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and you're watching Action Sports Jax.
When you think sports, you think Action Sports Jax, the official station of the Jaguars, on location for every game. But the most experienced team in town doesn't stop there. From high school football to the big events in the area, Action Sports Jax is always on. Now, we take that to a new level. Action Sports Jax 24/7 is around-the-clock coverage of the teams you love and the moments you can't miss. The best local sports in Jacksonville on Action Sports Jax 24/7.